Good morning. Welcome to the State Energy Planning Board's hearing on the draft State Energy Plan. My name is Nora Modonic, and I lead Arch Street Communications, which is a firm assisting the State Energy Planning Board with managing the public hearings. I'm going to go through a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Non-English language support is available at this hearing. For those who are here in person, American Sign Language, ASL, is located at the front of the hearing space to stage left. Spanish support is also available. It's located in the back of the room. If you need help with that, find a team member who has a staff sign, and they'll be happy to support. For those who are joining us via webcast, to enable audio language translation, you're going to look for the CC, which is closed caption icon, on your monitor. That will provide closed captioning in any of a select of languages. I believe there are about 30 of them, and you can choose the language that you would like. ASL will be featured on a separate camera inset throughout the entirety of the hearing. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Monroe Community College for generously hosting us today. And I'm going to turn things over to Doreen Harris, who is chair of the State Energy Planning Board.
Thank you, Nora. Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Doreen Harris. I'm president and CEO of the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority and chair of the state's Energy Planning Board. I'm very happy to see each of you here today to provide public comment on a very important milestone, which was the issuance of our draft state energy plan on July 23rd, 2025. As you've heard, we as a State Energy Planning Board take this input very seriously. This hearing is being recorded and professionally transcribed as part of the official record and will be posted to the State Energy Plan website as soon as practicable after this hearing. So the State Energy Planning Board directs the development of this plan. I'm pleased to be joined by a fellow member of the State Energy Planning Board, and with that, I will have him introduce himself.
Good morning. I'm John King, the Chancellor of the State University of New York. It's been a privilege to serve on the State Energy Planning Board, and I look forward to hearing the public comment.
Thank you. And certainly you can see here the other members of the Energy Planning Board. Together, we have been working for approximately a year on this effort and are pleased to be here with you today. I'll begin today by providing some background on the State Energy Plan and opportunities to provide input on the draft plan. Then, Carl Maas, Senior Vice President of Policy Analysis and Research at NYSERDA, will present an overview of the draft energy plan. Afterward, we'll talk through hearing logistics, including how you can comment today. This should take no more than 10 or 15 minutes, and the rest of our time will be dedicated to hearing from you. I'll transition now to background on the State Energy Plan. The State Energy Plan provides broad policy direction that guides energy-related decision-making within New York State. And it includes an outlook through 2040 with recommendations for meeting future energy demands that prioritize an energy system that is reliable, clean, and affordable while supporting economic development, equity, and a healthy environment. And it certainly does build on our state's notable progress toward a clean energy transition, including many projects within this portfolio that are under construction and now operating. The State Energy Planning Board released a draft state energy plan on July 23rd, 2025, and we certainly do encourage New Yorkers to review and provide their input through written comments or at public hearings like this hearing here today. Public input received in response will be used by the board to develop the final state energy plan, which is anticipated to be published by year end. This is the third of 10 public hearings that we are holding. And certainly, we are thrilled not only to hear from each of you, but to be traveling the state in person or virtually over the coming month to receive that input across our state. So, to provide further insight into the draft plan, I'd like to introduce Carl Maas, NYSERDA's Senior Vice President for Policy Analysis and Research, to walk us through the draft plan's broad planning goals. Carl.
Great. Thank you, Chair Harris, and thank you everyone for coming today. It's really a pleasure to be able to come here to this great space and to speak to all of you. I'll go through a few slides. Really, the board is here to hear from you, but I wanted to frame for you what the energy plan has to share. So as Chair Harris noted, the energy plan serves as an opportunity to take stock of our programs and progress, calibrate state energy projections, considering economic and political conditions, and focus our vision on the 15 years ahead. So I'll begin by orienting you first to the draft plan. That's what this slide lays out. Hopefully you have had a chance to take a look at it at our website, but if you haven't yet, please have a look. The draft plan was released for public comment. It consists of 2 volumes. Volume 1 is our summary document. It provides an overview of the energy system today, broad planning goals, and summarizes findings and recommendations from the subsequent plan chapters, which are in Volume 2. Volume 2 consists of the topical and analytic chapters listed here. We've also developed and released 6 fact sheets on key topics. All are available on the State Energy Plan website. Okay, so I'm going to give you all, again, a high-level overview. There's a lot of details in the plan that I encourage folks to read. Our approach for the plan has been to focus on the following 5 overarching goals. First, to ensure a reliable, resilient, and clean energy system. Second, to ensure energy affordability and equitable access for all New Yorkers. Third, to drive economic growth. Fourth, to advance energy technology innovation, which really supports the previous 3. And then 5th, to continue progress on economy-wide decarbonization. I'll spend a little time to walk through each of these. The State Energy Plan puts forth policy considerations to ensure the energy system can deliver abundant, reliable, resilient, and clean energy for New York. We will achieve this by maintaining a diverse mix of both supply resources and infrastructure. Diversity in energy resources allows the state to meet our energy needs while minimizing the potential impacts of energy supply disruptions and price fluctuations in any given market. Substantial investment will be needed into modernizing aging infrastructure, addressing hazards, and support economic development. And this is true for any energy pathway that New York will walk down. I also would like to note that we are in a time of great uncertainty in the energy sector. The analytic modeling conducted for the State Energy Plan reflects multiple scenarios to provide insights on a range of possible outcomes. Next, the plan considers affordable energy and broad access to bill-reducing energy efficiency and clean energy choices as essential for an equitable energy transition and to New York's continued prosperity through advancing community and economic development. Even as we know that the average New Yorker spends less on combined transportation and household energy expenses than the average American, which this chart shows, we know that we need to continue to focus on further progress in energy affordability. And advancing equity in our energy and climate actions means that New York is working to ensure that all communities, and especially within disadvantaged communities, will benefit from the state's clean energy transition. I note that federal policy and financial support has been critical to energy affordability. We therefore need to continue to assess the evolution of federal policies over time and understand how they can impact our projections over the next 15 years. So third, access to reliable and affordable energy is essential to attract and develop new strategic industries in New York, as well as to maintain existing industry. Strategic industries like semiconductors and agribusiness have large energy needs and require access to reliable, affordable energy and long-term energy cost stabilization. As such, New York can promote economic development by meeting the needs of large energy users and investing in infrastructure and programs that can attract new industry, including clean energy leaders. Our 4th goal is innovation. We see the advancement of energy innovation as a critical tool to enable New York's energy transition. Innovation can help reduce the cost of and increase the diversity of energy technologies and services, whether by investing in emerging technologies, such as we see at the SUNY campuses around the state, or by bringing existing technologies from outside the state to New York's markets. And then finally, clean energy faces particular external headwinds from both economic pressures and a shift in the federal government's priorities. Continued progress toward decarbonization and a clean energy economy requires a sustainable financial footing, further policy actions, and new technologies. As the federal context continues to shift, the Energy Planning Board stresses the need to be clear-eyed about what timeframes are realistic. And with that, I'll now pass the mic back to Chair Harris.
Thank you very much, Carl. As we begin to transition to the public hearing, I do want to note that we've been joined by several members of the State Senate and Assembly. I'd like to ask Nora to start by asking them for their comments. Nora?
Yes, Assembly Member Palmisano.
Good morning, everyone.
Oh, I don't know if that's on.
Good morning, everyone. President Harris, good to see you again. I appreciate your time. Before I start on my comment, I just want to reinforce my message from last night about the need for additional hearings in Central New York, the North Country, and Southern Tier to give voices to those residents to come in person, and also our call to extend the comment period an additional 90 days, given the far-reaching impact of the energy plan. But today I wanted to focus this briefly on reliability. I know your plan calls to ensure reliability, and that's a good thing. But hopefully you can reinforce that to my colleagues in the legislature and the governor, because we already know there are red flags about reliability indicated by the NISO short-term red flags, more coming offline reliable, and that not new coming in. But even more importantly, the long-term. The NISO said we need 27 to 45 gigawatts of dispatchable emission-free resources by 2040 to meet these mandates that are coming down the pipeline. But the technology does not yet exist. We don't know if it's advanced nuclear, carbon capture, sequestration, renewable natural gas, hydrogen. We don't know yet. So, and then natural gas has always been referred to as a bridge fuel. You don't tear down a bridge before you build a new one, but believe me, there are some of my colleagues in Albany and sometimes some of the messages we've seen that want to do just that. So we would encourage you. And also the CLCPA does have an off-ramp, a safety valve to pause moving forward on the implementation of the CLCPA if reliability and safety is in question. I firmly believe, just based on the NISO reports recent and the long-term projections, reliability and safety is in jeopardy. So I would urge you with your messaging as you move forward to convey to the governor and the legislature through your energy plan, and even suggest in your energy plan that we should pause the CLCPA to ensure there's a reliable future ahead, a reliable infrastructure, and that we don't tear down that bridge before we build a new one. Let's build the bridge first before we tear down the bridge of reliable, affordable natural gas to public, especially since 60% of New Yorkers heat their homes with natural gas and 40% of our generation comes from natural gas. So that's all I wanted to say today. Hopefully I was with my 2 minutes, and I'll see you in Albany next week. Thank you again for what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Assembly Member. Assembly Member Sarah Clark.
Thank you, and thank you, President Harris and Chancellor King, for being here in Rochester. We very much appreciate it. I think here, both having these panels across the state, ensuring to listen to communities and understand what people have, I always think of the wonderful adage of, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Our climate goals are ambitious. Our desire to be on cleaner, cheaper energy sources is ambitious, but it is something that I think if we all go together, we will get there. And I really commend you for making sure this process is one that collaborates and brings people together so we can talk about what we know are real barriers and real issues. We come at a time where there are a lot of policies out there that have pushed our grid to its max. I actually got to tour the New York State Independent Operating System a couple of weeks ago and got to see in real time both the stressors of where we've put new policies in, but also the way our summers are and the effects of climate change that have really made our summers in some ways even more stressors than they used to be, and more so than our winters are at this point. Really putting strains on the grid and understanding our need for transmission, but also hearing from them that there are pathways here, and we just need to be committed to them. And so I really really like that we are finding some real commitments, staying true to some commitments to make sure we're on those pathways to getting that cleaner, cheaper and reliable energy. But I also know we're at a point where people have really high utility bills, and it's something I hear about a lot. We have continued to have our utility companies coming forward with more rate cases to raise rates on top of what people are already feeling stressed about when their current utility bills and their inability to pay. So it is a balance, and I understand that. I just think we can't lose sight of where our goals are and what they will ultimately get us, which is cleaner, cheaper energy and a workforce opportunity that is unparalleled. I know people, and I've had various workshops on things like geothermal and everything, and people are moving here to be part of this workforce. It is something that will draw people to New York State to be part of this process as we move forward in real amazing workforce opportunities. So the ultimate issue is, how do we get there? Can we go hand in hand with research and development and ensure that we're having regulations that push R&D and push new products out there that help us meet our goals without losing sight of the fact that we do want this? I understand timelines are tough, and we are facing this balance, but I hope that we stay committed to the path in the timeline that we are, even if there are obstacles, because I do see a pathway forward there. And again, the opportunities that it will create down the line for cleaner, cheaper energy for folks and for a workforce here that will really be unparalleled anywhere else in the country is something we should be proud of, something we should be investing in. And I really look forward to, as we continue this process, to work with the legislature as we meet these goals. So thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember. All right, before I go through the logistics for how we're going to handle commenters, I just wanted to say that the purpose of the hearing today is to hear from the public. It's not an interactive discussion, and no comments or questions will be addressed at this hearing. We'll hear a diversity of viewpoints, some of which you'll agree with, some of which you may not. We encourage you to please listen respectfully to all points of view. The hearing is being webcast, recorded, and transcribed. All of these materials will become part of the official record, and they will be posted on the State Energy Plan website as soon as possible. So for our commenters, each commenter will have 2 minutes to speak. If you are using an interpreter, you'll have 3 to allow for translation. Interpretation is available today in both American Sign Language and Spanish. We're going to first hear from those who pre-registered to comment. After that, if time allows, we will call on those who registered to comment today. Throughout today's comment period, we're going to have a slide up that'll have alternative ways that you can provide input in case you prefer or need to submit your comments in writing. If you have any additional questions, please find an individual with a staff tag, and we'll be happy to help. So for those who are registered, you were given a 3x5 card, an index card when you came in, and it has a group number, a group letter on it, A, B, C, or D. And I'm going to call by group up to the mics, and I'm going to ask my co-facilitators to let you know which mic is live at the moment. If you're unable to walk to the microphone, just raise your hand and one of them will bring the mic to you. When it's your turn, please hand the card, the index card, to the facilitator. They'll read your name, and when you're ready to begin, we'll start a timer for 2 minutes, or 3 minutes if you are using an interpreter, and the facilitator will hold the mic for you. The facilitator at your mic will give you an indicator when you are about 30 seconds before the end of your time so that you can wrap up. And when your time is up, we'll need to move on to the next speaker. If you are not able to finish your comment, we encourage you to submit the remainder in writing. Again, we're going to hear first from those who pre-registered online, and after that, we'll call on those who registered today as time allows. If you didn't pre-register but have decided you would like to speak, please visit the check-in table. We have a second check-in table upstairs for your convenience, or let a staff member know, and we will get you registered to comment to speak. Okay, so let's get started with Group A. Could Group A come to Susanna's microphone? Thank you. It's okay.
Daniel Brennan.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Daniel Brennan. I'm here for Grid Connected Infrastructure as the Director of Permitting and Council. We have two utility-connected battery energy storage systems under development in New York State, including one right here in the town of Brighton. I'd like to thank NYSERDA for providing this forum for both our company and the public to comment on the state's energy goals. And I'm here today to voice our strong support for NYSERDA's efforts to both improve the reliability of the energy grid, to provide direct economic benefits to the community through jobs and investment, and to provide indirect benefits to the economy through future load growth. We very much are looking forward to working with NYSERDA and all of our community stakeholders, both on our project here in the town of Brighton and our other project in New York State. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Roger Kayatsa.
Documentation for my comments will be posted on my Pragmatic Environmentalist of New York blog. The overview for the draft energy plan states that it is advancing abundant, reliable, affordable, and clean energy for all New Yorkers. Affordability, reliability, and clean energy need to be defined. The first prerequisite to considering affordability is a clear and transparent accounting of all the projected costs to meet the Climate Act mandates, not just the Climate Act mandated programs. The PSC has an affordability metric appropriate for utility costs, but that is inadequate for the energy plan that considers other energy costs, such as personal transport and heating in homes that do not use electricity or natural gas. A new metric is needed. Two aspects of reliability must be addressed. An electric system that relies on wind and solar is dependent upon weather variability. The integration analysis, pathways analysis, Public Service Commission, NYSO, independent work by Cornell's Lindsay Anderson all agree new dispatchable emissions-free resources will be required to back up wind and solar. The reliability question is how much is needed? The second reliability aspect is safety. What happens to an all-electric energy system when there's an ice storm? Clean energy needs to be defined too. The scoping plan failed to compare the environmental and life cycle impacts of wind and solar relative to existing alternatives. In addition, the last update of the cumulative environmental impact statement was completed in 2020 before future energy projections called for many more solar panels and wind turbines. If affordability, reliability, and clean energy are not defined, then they're just meaningless slogans. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's anyone else for Group A, please come down to where Susanna is, and if not, Group B, head over to Sophia, please.
Ralph Zoller.
My name is Ralph Zoller. I'm with Local 798. I appreciate you giving me the time to speak. As a proud member, we also have over 800 proud members located in the Northeast that are part of Local 798. I'd like to ask for the restrictions to be lifted on the natural gas pipelines. With a lack of infrastructure has led to higher energy prices and an increased dependence on not-so-friendly fuels. With a proper infrastructure, New York could displace 3 million gallons of heating oil that are currently being used every year, reducing 50% of the emissions and the risk of an environmental impact. Also, the average residents would save $2,300 a year, and the average commercial business would be $6,000, let alone not having the estimated 185,000 heating oil tanks above and below ground. ranging from 275 gallons to 1,000 gallons, with no way to know if any of those are leaking. With the increased risk of a catastrophic gas system outage due to the inadequate upstream gas system for New York City. At this time, when AI and data centers continue to grow at a rapid pace, the demand for natural gas keeps rising to secure reliable electric generation. With the launch of Local 798 apprenticeship program combined with our 33,000 square foot training facility, we feel that we will help us implement the safest, most up-to-date process that there is to build the natural gas infrastructure. What a better place than New York to utilize new energy projects. There is such a large demand and such a shortage supply of energy, whether it is natural gas, heating, manufacturing, or electricity combined with renewable energy. Our goal is to supply the most knowledgeable, skilled, and well-trained professionals in the nation. With a combined effort from everyone, all goals can be reached. Thank you.
Thank you. Sophia, hang on for 1 second. Hi, just before we continue, I want to remind everyone in the room that there are no posters, flyers, handbills, sign-in sheets, anything issue-oriented. We try to keep this room very objective. We have a table outside where we're happy to hang on to those for you and have them ready for you when you leave. Thank you. Sophia, back to you.
Kate Cressman Kehoe.
Hi, my name is Kate Cressman Kehoe, and I'm from Rochester, New York. Thank you for making a draft energy plan that keeps climate in mind and that includes nuclear energy. I started thinking about nuclear when I got solar panels and started wondering, well, where does the power come from when they're not working? I really started doing a lot of deep dives into the New York State situation. I'm very strongly in favor of nuclear because it generates so much electricity, it takes so little fuel, and it runs around the clock. And it is emissions-free. The only emission is steam. In addition to making our grid more stable, nuclear energy can help us meet our CLIPA goals of an emissions-free grid. When you look at New York State, there's about 9% capacity in both nuclear and renewables. But over the year, nuclear produces more than 3 times as much electricity as renewables. That's because nuclear reactors run continuously, but renewables are intermittent. Wind and solar are great. I love our panels, but we are still figuring out how to integrate these intermittent sources cost-effectively into a grid that can run our homes, hospitals, and workplaces all day, all night, and all year. I've looked at the NISO site, which reports the instantaneous power mix. It's fascinating. Sometimes wind is making more than a nuclear plant, like 2,000 megawatts. But sometimes it's making almost nothing, like 23 megawatts. And that doesn't track to the demand. You can't turn it on when you need more. Batteries are expensive and only cover a few hours of time. We need a stable, clean grid. Nuclear energy is a way to get there. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Polamas.
Paul Hamus, thank you. I'm going to have to speak a little quick because I have many concerns and views. After laboriously reading through the bureaucraties of the drafts of the state energy plan, I have a few comments to make. While the goals are laudable, implementation is not practical. The creators of the draft plan are counting on wishes and pixie dust to overcome some of real-life obstacles. All this while placing the burden of costs on average taxpayers who cannot afford the tax loopholes afforded to the wealthy and affluent. How are they going to benefit from these extra costs just to live in this state? Well, the subject is health. The government believes in what scientists and experts recommend, but when it comes to realistically accomplishing the goals of the draft plan, they choose not to believe the studies performed by knowledgeable institutions that do not agree with the legislative and lobbyist goals. First off, the electric transmission infrastructure improvements will be quite expensive and time-consuming. Vast amounts of copper wire will be required, and U.S. copper mines are constrained by regulations. The mining, smelting, and refining of this ore has tremendous negative environmental impacts. Copper supplied by foreign companies are less hampered by regulations. This countermines the environmental goals of the plan. The mandate to only allow electrical heating of new homes goes against free choice, which our society cherishes. It smacks of the government saying, you can't understand this, and we know what's best for you. New York legislators rail against the federal government's mandates and dictums, but feel theirs have lofty, acceptable goals. The mandate was tried back in the 1970s and 80s. Owners of the homes that were built with electrical heating supplies soon realized the exorbitant costs of using electricity for heating their homes and water and converted to less expensive fuels. The only areas where it was beneficial to the owners were in those with municipal electrical supplies and their associated much lower costs. Resistive heating, 100% efficient, expensive. Heat pumps, less costly to operate, but they are not without cost. Current ones are better than the old ones, and for those that don't know, a heat pump's like a refrigerator or air conditioner. It can work forward or reverse, which requires complex valving and monitoring. And when the temperature gets cold, like in the Central Adirondacks, and
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you. Your time is expired.
Oh,
Would you
she
please,
didn't give me the 30
would you
seconds.
please submit the rest of your comments in writing?
It's
Thank you.
great.
Thank
Okay.
you.
She didn't
Could
tell
I
me
get-
30 seconds.
Could I have Group C please come down to where Susanna is? Back to you.
Jim Bearden.
Good morning. My name is Jim Bearden. I live in the Rochester area. I'm a volunteer member of the local groups of the Sierra Club, Indivisible, and several other organizations which are dedicated to a better future for all of us. I come here today to point out, as others have and will, the shortcomings in the current draft state energy plan and to urge you to do better. As you can probably tell, I've been around for quite a long time. I'm 81 years old now, and I probably won't be around long enough to see all the consequences of this short-sighted and unlawful energy plan play out. But I have children and grandchildren living in New York who will be suffering the consequences of your actions and inactions for many more years than I will. So it is more for them and for all the younger members of our state that I urge you to pay more attention to the world we actually live in and what we are doing to it, rather than what you might wish it to be. I know it may be more comfortable and probably safer politically, especially with the current anti-environmental attitude in Washington, to continue muddling along with status quo actions, but your constituents deserve better. I urge you to return to the goals outlined in the net zero scenarios and the scoping plan outlined in 2022, and give New Yorkers the future we deserve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gabriel Recchio.
With Sierra Club, the last point that got cut off from my notes last night, I attended 3 planning board meetings this year, and as I recall, every one of them started with listing reasons that ostensibly were intended to serve as justifications why we aren't on track to meet our climate law goals. COVID, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, inflation, supply chain problems, and now a federal government killing clean energy projects en masse nationwide. These realities, which I recognize they are realities that affect our rollout of renewable energy and emissions reductions in New York State, are also referenced in the draft plan, and rightfully so. My problem is with the way they seem to be used. Instead of pointing out to these holdups as context to justify doubling down on policy advancements needed to get as close as we can to reach our climate goals, it seems they're being used as the opposite, excuses to even continue trying to meet our climate goals. That's the best I can describe what this plan seeks to do. It's not even trying to meet our legally mandated climate goals. The buildings chapter explicitly states that the recommendations seek to accomplish the steady progress scenario, not the net zero scenario, which is what the climate law 2019 legally requires. To me, that's indicative of a trend that seems to be coming from the governor of pulling back on New York's established climate policies like cap and invest, and now a draft plan that simply doesn't meet the moment we're in. Some policy points: the draft plan calls for an entirely new planning exercise, creation of a statewide strategic gas system transition plan, which calls into question the value of what stakeholders like the Sierra Club have been doing over the last 5.5 years since the PSC opened its docket on gas planning procedures, what we've been doing in all the many gas system long-term plan dockets. This long-term gas planning process needs to be bolstered to being more than an exercise with a recommendation in the plan for emissions limits on gas distribution companies. Another policy opportunity we can't afford to miss in the final plan is a recommendation to amend the gas distribution company's obligation to serve. It's an archaic policy originally intended in part to address energy redlining, But regardless, a better worded law would have objectively described the requirement to serve safe, reliable energy services, not naming the type of energy specifically, which is what the law currently does by naming gas. As we roll out the All Electric Buildings Act, amending the obligation to serve is a critical keystone policy change that's needed to enable electrification of the building sector, which is the largest source of climate pollution in New York State. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment.
Charles Thomas.
I'm Charlie Thomas, business agent for Local 798 of the United Association. I cover the Northeast region of the United States from Virginia to Maine, east of the Ohio River. We represent 5,800 workers across America, of whom 811 reside in the Northeast region. I urge the State Energy Planning Board to keep considering natural gas as a key energy option. Natural gas combined with renewable resources can continue to ensure grid reliability and stability while lowering harmful emissions. During the regional surge in using natural gas as the main energy source, emissions decreased by 17%, even as natural gas production increased by 51%. Through innovation, these emission reductions will continue to decline. Renewable energy sources combined with the reliability of natural gas will enable us to reach reduction targets that were previously impossible, while also providing stability in a sector that cannot afford instability. With more reliable and cleaner energy, consumers will have lower energy bills benefiting everyone. Growth in the natural gas sector will create more opportunities for well-paying jobs that provide health care and pensions for workers. Local 798 and the UA would like to see more members represented in the state of New York. Growth in the energy sector will ensure the ability to cultivate and train the next generation of tradespeople in the energy industry. Local 798 is starting a new apprenticeship program to train and develop skilled journeyman pipe fitters and welders. We will capitalize on the growth of the energy sector to create a new generation of highly skilled, efficient workers in the industry. Thank you to the New York State Energy Planning Board for allowing us to speak today on behalf of the workers we represent. We hope to have a lasting and growing partnership in the state of New York. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Could I ask Group D, please, to step down to Sophia's microphone? Thank you. Back to you, Suzanne.
John Keevert.
I'm John Keevert, a resident of Rochester and co-chair of the Environmental Justice Ministry of First Unitarian Church of Rochester. We are a member organization of New York Renews. I ask you to recognize the urgency of adhering to the scoping plan schedules that you generated and not allow any slippage. We recall the analysis done by NYSERDA in 2022 that found that investing in an accelerated transition away from combustion saved from $80 up to $150 billion over costs. Reduced greenhouse gas emissions avoids cost of damages caused by climate change. And in improvements in air quality, increased active transportation, and energy efficiency interventions in low and moderate income homes will generate massive health benefits. Schedule slippage means that you are foregoing these likely savings and instead will permit unhealthy conditions to persist. A friend in New York News who lives in the lower Bronx told us his father died at age 57 because of air pollution, and he doesn't expect to live any longer than that unless air quality improves substantially. Pollution costs aren't just statistics. There's people's lives at stake. The clean energy standards must not perpetuate fossil fuel use. I hope you will avoid the false solutions of hydrogen, so-called renewable natural gas, or new nuclear. Keep existing nuclear facilities, but new nuclear is way too expensive per kilowatt hour of generating capacity, as well as being totally unproven and slow to come online. I ask you to explicitly reject any build-out of the AI industry, crypto mining, or for-profit data center infrastructure that undermines our capacity to meet climate goals under CLCPA. Save renewable energy for residential and industrial use so we can close down the dirty peaker plants in New York City. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thaddeus Schickling.
Okay, sorry. Hello, I'm Thaddeus Schickling. I'm from Rochester, New York. I'm a resident of the city of Rochester. I have two major points when it comes to nuclear. Nuclear has a capacity factor of close to 100%. Renewables, in contrast, have a capacity factor of 20 to 30%. That means, for example, that to meet 1 gigawatt of nuclear capacity, renewables would have to meet a minimum of 3 gigawatts. And this doesn't include storage, which is extremely expensive for 24-hour power generation. Second point, as New York transitions to electrified heat and electric cars, the demand will be higher during periods where renewables produce even less energy. For example, the energy production from the solar panels on my roof decreased 75 to 80% from December to March. Nuclear, in contrast, does not have these disadvantages. That's it.
Thank you for your comment.
Ethan Gormley.
Good morning. My name is Ethan Gormley, and I'm a climate organizer with Citizen Action of New York. I live in Clay, New York. As you probably know, Citizen Action is a grassroots membership organization with thousands of members across the state. The draft state energy plan cannot abandon the 2019 climate law, or else we'll face consequences for decades to come. While Governor Hochul sidelines Cap and Invest, which would build out much-needed renewable energy, she's also ushering in new energy-intensive industry. Crypto mining, data centers, and now Micron's massive proposed semiconductor facility in Onondaga County, all requiring staggering amounts of energy. It's then essential that New York rapidly expands renewable energy development statewide. This could be funded by making major corporate polluters pay to pollute via Cap and Invest, but Governor Hochul has inexplicably stopped that program from moving forward. Done correctly, Cap and Invest would protect working families by delivering thousands of dollars of savings a year. At the same time, the Cap and Invest program can provide a massive influx of funding year over year into proven renewable energy sources like wind, solar, geothermal, and battery storage that protect our health and our financial well-being. The pursuit of new nuclear energy, however, is only a costly distraction destined to raise our bills. And we know the historical and current impacts of the nuclear industry that are causing disproportionate harm to Haudenosaunee and other indigenous nations. The draft plan's failure to reflect the scoping plan, its reliance on false solutions like nuclear energy and green hydrogen, and its refusal to chart a clear pathway to net zero will harm New Yorkers. Instead of saddling us with more damaging and costly extreme weather, more pollution in our communities, and higher bills, Governor Hochul and the state energy plan must follow the climate law and make major corporate polluters pay for their emissions while reducing climate warming pollution in our communities through Cap and Invest. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for your comment.
Jen Rand.
Good morning. Hi again. So for decades, fossil fuel industry disinformation has made most of us believe it's too late to solve climate change, but it's a lie. Scientists have known with certainty for over 20 years that temperature rise will stop within 3 to 5 years of reaching net zero greenhouse gas emissions. And here's the good news. We already have all the tools and technologies we need for an orderly and planned transition off of fossil fuels to reach net zero. But we need to use those tools with greater speed and scale. Reaching net zero isn't a fantasy. In the 2000s, we were on track for an average temperature increase of 6 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial temperatures. Now we're on track for 2 to 3 degrees because ordinary people like us got together and changed how we live. But even 2 degrees of warming would be devastating. The Paris Agreement refers to a 20-year average temperature increase. And that means we still have time to limit temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. We can turn that ambition into a reality. The energy plan must incorporate and build upon the climate action scoping plan so we can build a future where our communities are safe, healthy, and resilient. The scoping plan was rigorously developed by experts with multiple rounds of community input. The people have spoken, and now is not the time for defeatism or delay. The fossil fuel industry itself is no longer denying the reality of climate change because over 99% of climate scientists agree that it's caused by humans, primarily from burning fossil fuels like natural gas, which is mostly methane. Instead, they're trying to delay action by distracting us with false solutions. So the energy plan should recommend eliminating subsidies for new gas interconnections and amending the obligation to serve gas. Right now, utilities are obligated to serve gas, and they should be obligated to serve energy, which gives utilities the ability to invest in clean energy. As it is, we're stuck wasting money on old, leak-prone, and increasingly obsolete gas infrastructure that's harmful to human health and our planet. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Nate Burdick.
Good morning. My name is Nate Burdick, Fund Administrator with UA Local 13 Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, representing hundreds of members across our region. I want to thank Governor Hochul and the NYSERDA for considering the all-of-the-above energy strategy to strengthen New York's energy plans, to protect grid reliability, and support real job growth in the skilled trades. The New York Independent System Operator Power Trends 2025 report explains that our reliability risks are shifting towards the winter season. Simply put, New York will need more dependable energy sources to meet demand when the weather is not cooperating, similar to a day like today, cloudy skies out there. This means that the gap between what families need and what the grid can deliver is growing wider day by day, especially during the cold snaps. We must plan now for resources that can reliably respond when wind is low and the sun is down. An alternative renewable power source that can help close the gap is hydrogen energy. Clean hydrogen can be used in fuel cells or to store or generate electricity from turbines. These features offer dependable service, especially during prolonged winter peaks and multi-day lulls in the renewables. Hydrogen can also support critical facilities so hospitals, water systems, and emergency systems keep operating when the weather turns. New York should continue to demonstrate that hydrogen energy works and expands its pilot projects as much as possible in Western New York. Recently, the New York Power Authority tested clean hydrogen as a fuel for electricity generation. The agency conducted a successful demonstration project in Brentwood Power Station that was retrofitted to burn blends of clean hydrogen with natural gas, resulting in a 14% reduction in CO2 and an 88% drop in carbon emissions. Men and women who build and maintain New York's energy infrastructure stand ready to deliver these projects safely and accomplish a smooth transition to a stronger, cleaner energy system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joshua Hertz.
Good morning. I live in the city of Rochester. I'm here representing the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism in New York, which is an organization representing 99 Reform Jewish congregations, and there are 150,000 congregants throughout New York State. We've been supportive of the CLCPA and have been working to determine how best to achieve its goals of a clean electric grid and an energy economy which works for all New Yorkers. We appreciate the Energy Planning Board's steps in that direction. Specifically, the continued commitment to all-electric new building construction is key. And yet, if we don't provide mechanisms to redirect utility dollars away from inefficient and costly gas system extensions and eliminate the obligation to serve, we will not meet our target of 85% reduction in building emissions. If we are to have any hope of meeting our renewable energy goals, we need to start working with utility partners to more effectively direct dollars away from wasteful fossil fuel delivery development. Obviously, Governor Hochul should sign the Assembly and Senate 8417 without delay to eliminate the 100-foot rule so that we all don't continue to pay for new gas hookups, which brings us to the critical issue of affordability. Too many New Yorkers can no longer afford basic heating and cooling of their homes. The number of utility customers in arrears continues to rise, well past the initial pandemic steep hike. There are now more than 1.3 million households in the state who are 2 or more months behind in the utility bills. This isn't just a Con Ed issue. We're seeing it here with RG&E as well, and to varying degrees throughout the state. We need a plan to limit energy costs to no more than 6% of household income. And programs like Empower Plus for low and moderate income households need to be fully funded. We rely on your leadership to do so. The futures of our children and our children's children depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I ask Group E, please, to come down to Susanna?
John Carpenter.
Good morning, everyone. My name is John Carpenter. I'm the business manager of Local 13 Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, representing over 1,300 members in the area. I am also on the executive board of New York State Pipe Trades, representing over 23,000 members. I want to thank Governor Kathleen Hochul and NYSERDA for considering an all-of-the-above energy strategy to strengthen New York's energy plans to protect grid reliability and support real jobs growth in the skilled trades. This plan outlines a forward-looking and most importantly, realistic approach to building a resilient, clean, and affordable energy future. I want to emphasize the importance of maintaining a diverse energy mix. Nuclear power plants emit no carbon dioxide during operation. It has high energy density and reduces dependence on fossil fuels. Advanced technologies are improving the safety and efficiency. Nuclear energy reduces millions of tons in emissions, and the new technologies are getting to a point where there's very little waste also. Hydrogen. Clean hydrogen can be used in fuel cells to store or generate electricity. This could be used to support critical facilities and emergency services. Thermal energy networks. They use ambient and underground thermal resources to heat and cool multiple buildings through shared piping and heat pumps. These systems are already being used in different applications, from SUNY campuses to residential buildings. These systems could create thousands of skilled union careers. Natural gas is currently powering almost half the state's electricity. It has been the most reliable source of heat to everyone's home throughout New York State. Even as we move away from relying on natural gas, to abandon natural gas puts New York State at risk of power outages, blackouts, and unaffordable electric bills. New York State must continue to pursue an all of the above strategy, one that balances innovation, reliability, and affordability while staying true to our climate goals. Industries
Thank
of
you
the
for your
future.
comment. Please submit the rest in writing.
Lisa Marshall.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. I'm Lisa Marshall with New Yorkers for Clean Power, and I also am the lead organizer for the Renewable Heat Now campaign. I'm also a mother of 3 beautiful young people in their 20s who are afraid for their future and say they are not planning on giving me any grandchildren, which is my main motivator for being here today. Sorry. I want to talk about some of the work that I've done in areas in New York where there are currently gas moratoria. For example, Lansing, New York, in Tompkins County, where there's been a gas moratorium for years, and also where an old and inefficient coal plant was closed down. We did hear over and over again from the fossil fuel industry and the opposition how the sky was going to fall, and that is not true. Lansing is a thriving community. There is new housing being built there. One of the most conservative right-wing housing builders in Tompkins County is building multifamily units and apartments that are all electric, hand over fist, and even when he doesn't have to anymore because he realized it's actually costs him less to build these buildings with the heat pumps instead of with the gas and having to duct these buildings. Also in Westchester, there was a gas moratorium and people were pretty panicked because it came very quickly. We don't want to do it that quickly. We want to make an actually really good plan to right-size our gas system. But we have multiple contractors, HVAC people, builders who can testify that moratorium has not slowed things down. In fact, their business is better than ever and the area is thriving. So we do have proof of concept. In Tompkins County, we have all kinds of all-electric buildings, including a brand new conference center with a commercial kitchen. I live in Horseheads. We have a beautiful new airport terminal that is powered with geothermal, and I could go on and on. Affordable housing, every kind of building you can imagine. So this fear-mongering is baseless, and we can just contact me. I'll give you a tour. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kristen Van Horwege.
Hello, my name is Kristen Van Horwege, and although I work at a local climate advocacy organization, I'm here today as a private citizen, as an aunt, a godmother, and a teacher. I feel so lucky to be able to spend time with young people, but when they talk to me about climate and their future, they're scared and they're angry. Normally, I console them by saying not to worry, we live in New York State and we have ambitious climate laws. But after reviewing the New York State draft energy plan, I'm not as confident in that sentiment. I'll have to tell them that the draft energy plan fails to take the measures needed to meet CLCPA goals, and that it falls far short of implementing the strong recommendations put forward by the state's own scoping plan. When I tell these young people that the state's plan for getting homes off fossil fuels is to let the gas utilities come up with a plan for getting off gas, they scoff. They laugh in my face, right? When I tell them that we're investing taxpayer dollars in nuclear energy, they ask me why. Why are we subsidizing an expensive technology propped up by the military-industrial complex with negative environmental and health consequences, particularly for indigenous populations? When I tell them RG&E is looking to raise their utility bills and we're not even getting more solar and battery storage, they're bewildered. Already they're worried about making ends meet, and paying for dirty energy isn't something they think they should do. Luckily, today's youth are worried about justice, and they ask good questions about how low to moderate income households are going to be able to afford clean energy. Unfortunately, I have to tell them that the state's plan doesn't include any way of paying for climate solutions, that our governor is sitting on regulations that would make polluters pay and help households afford their utility bills because there's an election coming. Their cynicism is palpable. When I talk about all the things we could be doing, like thermal energy networks and capping utility bills at 6%, their eyes light up. That's the future they want to see. You might dismiss these young people as naive or idealistic. Maybe, or maybe they're simply brave enough to see that the train of climate impacts are barreling towards them and they want their government to do something about it.
Thank you for your comment.
Michael Kehoe.
I'm a retired engineer. I live in Rochester. I'm also a member of the Sierra Club, but I'm speaking on my own behalf here. Though I fully support the increase in wind and solar power generation, that will not be enough to get New York State to being carbon neutral. To me, the mitigation of climate change and the further electrification of our homes, businesses, and automobiles can only be met by adding more nuclear power. Nuclear is firm power, generated at a near constant rate. Battery arrays needed for wind and solar are only 4-hour storage, or at most 10-hour, not long enough to avoid the likelihood of future brownouts if we rely only on passive energy generation. I followed all the discussions at the New York's Future Energy Economy Summit last year and was impressed by the broad involvement of all the stakeholders needed to move forward with clean energy. While not the ideal solution as we wait for fusion to be viable, nuclear power generation is proven and can replace much of the fossil fuel generation that's contributing to climate change. Nuclear power is not a fast rollout, and so the state needs to move quickly. To my mind, that means adding new reactors on existing nuclear plant sites. Many are chartered to have more reactors than are currently operating. Their communities are more accepting of nuclear than most, and they have labor skill sets that are needed. So site selection must be expedited, grid improvements and expansion started, as well as more training for critical skills such as welding. Finally, costs for this power expansion should not fall entirely on the New York State ratepayers. For our electrification needs, yes, but new power costs for AI and server farms should be borne by those industries directly. Nuclear rollout costs can be lessened by using existing designs for large-scale reactors, not first-of-its-kind designs. New designs for SMRs or small modular reactors seem most appropriate for AI and server farms. Let's move ahead quickly with new nuclear, as well as more wind and solar and grid improvements. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kimberly DeRosa.
Hello. After reviewing the energy plan, it's clear that an ideology is more important than the grave impact this will have on us, the people of New York. Our utility bills have steadily risen with this push for green energy, no matter how many Energy Star appliances we buy. Rate hikes are already imminent, and we know our taxes will be hit hard as we pay for fleets of electric school buses that cost more than double what we already have now. What we get for that is more uncertainty, as these buses have been proven to be not only unreliable, but dangerous fire hazards and costly. Your timelines are arbitrary. They make no sense. There is no way to measure this clean energy push. Why would you remove clean, efficient, abundant energy options like natural gas? My home was built in the 50s, and my heat and appliances are all natural gas. What does this mean for my family and the many other families like mine? These unapologetic efforts to save the planet by decarbonizing a state that equals 0.082% of Earth's landmass is nothing but a master plan of idiocy. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Timothy Judson.
Hello, my name is Timothy Judson, and I'm with the Nuclear Information and Resource Service, and I live in Syracuse, New York, 30 miles downwind of 3 of the operating dirty Jane Durst nuclear reactors and expensive reactors in New York State. And I want to first register my dissatisfaction with the way that the hearing process has been conducted and the fact that there are no hearings being held in central New York, even though we are targeted by some of the worst aspects of this energy plan. But first I want to quote from legislation that was enacted 2 years ago by the legislature and signed by the governor, the Save the Hudson Act. The legislature finds that while the energy and economic output generated by nuclear power plants are beneficial to the state and its residents, discharges into waters of the state of radiological agents from nuclear power plants have various adverse and substantial economic impacts on the state and its residents. I don't see that reality, the reality that my community faces, reflected in this energy plan. And the sicknesses of the people, especially in Oswego County, from the 60 years of operation of nuclear power plants that we've been impacted by, and the 2,500 tons of irradiated fuel, high-level nuclear waste that is sitting here. I also don't see any recognition of the immense economic failure of nuclear power in this energy plan. New York State residents have had to bail out this industry 8 times over the last 50 years. And even though the state energy plan says, while ratepayer-funded programs will continue to provide an important building block, it is not feasible to continue increasing the number and scale of programs that electric ratepayers have to fund. So why is it that the Department of Public Service that was involved in this plan has now submitted a proposal to extend what was supposed to be a temporary bailout program for those existing reactors for another 20 years at a cost of $33 billion? Ratepayers are always asked to suck it up for the nuclear industry, and it hasn't helped us advance a renewable energy transition, which is the law in New York now. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Denise Baylor.
Hi, I wanted to talk a little bit about the solar panels that are all over New York State and all over the country. So right now we have 40% of our farmland in New York State covered in solar farms. Another 44% is being excavated right now to put more solar panels on there, which is going to absorb 84% of New York State farmland. A lot of that is dairy. Upstate Milk in Rochester, New York, that employs a lot of people, is either closing their doors or selling because they don't have the raw milk because the farmers don't have the land to plant their crops. 84% of New York State farmland is going to solar panels. You can't eat them. On the solar panels that everybody has, if you look at the emissions that are created when they're manufactured, is no less than what is being created through natural gas. That is number 2. The other thing, as she said, with the buses, they give an off-gassing, which is a toxic and flammable fuel when they regenerate. It's almost like they go through this motion and an off-gassing comes out, and that goes into the air. Does anybody know what emissions are coming from that? The other thing, too, I wanted to talk about, everybody, all I keep hearing about is affordability. What is going on? $1 billion is invested into this in New York State that is at the taxpayers' expense, and it is not affordable. Our electric bills are going up higher and higher. Gas has not created as much problems as you're saying they are. New York State accepted money from the EPA for electrifying New York and for the solar panels. Their verbiage in the EPA is specifically targeted to increase solar access for low-income and disadvantaged communities through commitments through solar panels, technical support, and workforce development. Sounds like they're giving the disadvantaged and the low-income jobs, and that's a lie. What you're doing is you're taking advantage of the disadvantaged people and the low income by raising their rates, and that is all done by Kathy Hochul, by New York State. You are hurting the people in this country. You come out to Democrat areas and you hold your rallies, but you won't go out to the farmlands and face the damage that you've done out there.
Thank you for your comment. Are you in? Yeah? Okay.
Sarah Howard.
My name is Sarah Howard. I work as an environmental consultant to the Tonawanda Seneca Nation. I want to clarify that I am not here to speak on behalf of the nation. Rather, I'm here to uplift comments that nation leadership has already articulated to NYSERDA and other New York State governmental agencies. The Tonawanda Seneca Nation faces an existential threat from the Western New York Science and Technology Advanced Manufacturing Park, also known as STAMP, a proposed industrial megasite underwritten by New York State funding and facilitated by New York State permitting and policy. The nation calls on New York State to take immediate measures to avert this threat by ending the flow of direct and indirect subsidies to STAMP and by ensuring the robust and culturally appropriate implementation of the CLCPA and environmental justice citing law. This call from the nation directly implicates the draft state energy plan. Despite sustained and forceful opposition from the nation and its allies, developer Genesee County Economic Development Center, GCEDC, has begun construction of STAMP on 1,260 acres of wetlands, forests, and farmland. STAMP lies adjacent to the nation's federally recognized reservation territory, nestled among public protected areas. Tonawanda Senecas and other people from across the Haudenosaunee Confederacy continue to hunt, fish, and gather in the nation's big woods, an ecologically rich primary forest. Industrialization at STAMP threatens Haudenosaunee cultural practices, as well as the nation's treaty-protected rights to clean water and to the free use and enjoyment of its homelands. The nation demands the following changes to the plan. The plan must explicitly reject all false solutions such as green hydrogen and must proactively prohibit the allocation of New York State public funds to further the development of these false solutions. The plan must explicitly reject the expansion of nuclear energy, which has historically and in the present caused disproportionate harm to the Haudenosaunee and other indigenous nations. The plan must ensure robust and culturally appropriate implementation of the CLCPA and environmental justice citing law to prevent indigenous nations from being disproportionately impacted by new energy projects. The plan must prohibit future allocations of low-cost Niagara River hydropower to STAMP tenants.
I want to thank you for your comment.
Thank you
Please
very
submit
much.
the rest in writing. Is there anyone else in Group G? Or do we have anyone in Group A? Oh, we do. Okay.
You were on E.
That was E. Oh, I'm past you. I'm so sorry. Group F?
Graham Hughes.
Thank you. The New York State Energy Plan, if implemented in its current form, would have New York State missing key climate law mandates and includes false energy solutions like nuclear and the repowering of toxic, aging gas power plants. New Yorkers deserve a reliable, clean, and affordable energy system that reduces our reliance on fossil fuels and leads to a healthier environment for everyone, especially New York's frontline communities, families, and workers disproportionately impacted by pollution. The specifics of this the types of changes that I would like to see can be found in the Climate Action Scoping Plan, which was crafted over 3 years by numerous experts with multiple rounds of public input. I'd also like to say that I support the changes to the state energy plan demanded by the Tonawanda Seneca Nation. I apologize, this is going to be repeating some of the things that were just said, but the Tonawanda Seneca face an existential threat from Western New York Science and Technology Advanced Manufacturing Park, otherwise known as STAMP. A proposed industrial megasite underwritten by New York State funding and facilitated by New York State permitting and policy. The nation calls for the following specific demands. The nation demands the following specific changes to the New York State Energy Plan. The plan must explicitly reject all false solutions such as green hydrogen and must proactively prohibit the allocation of New York State public funds to further the development of these false solutions. The plan must explicitly reject the expansion of nuclear energy, which has historically and in the present caused disproportionate harm to the Haudenosaunee and other indigenous nations. The plan must ensure that current requirements of the CLCPA are fully upheld in future review of funding allocations and permitting to industrial development facilities at STAMP. Regulations pertinent to the Office of Renewable Energy Siting and Electric Transmission must engage proactively and meaningfully with nations by providing the earliest possible notice on any relevant actions and multiple opportunities for nations to take action to mitigate adverse impacts to their territories and other cultural and/or cultural resources. The plan must explicitly reject any build-out of the AI industry and for-profit data center infrastructure that undermines the state's capacity to meet its stated climate goals under the CLCPA. There are others, but I'll close by saying New York State has a legal mandate to ensure its energy plan aligns with its climate law and an obligation to ensure that the rights and wishes of indigenous nations like the Tonawanda Seneca are met. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Bill Blaszek.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Blaszek, and I'm the training coordinator for Local 13 Plumbers, Pipe Fitters, and HVACR service techs. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here today to emphasize the critical role that natural gas continues to play in New York's energy future, both for grid reliability and economic development. The draft 2025 energy plan rightly acknowledges that natural gas will remain essential through at least 2040, especially for meeting peak demand during extreme weather and seasonal surges. Natural gas infrastructure is a backbone of reliability, ensuring stable energy delivery while the state transitions to cleaner sources. It's a proven technology that supports homes, businesses, and industries across New York. From a jobs perspective, the natural gas sector supports thousands of high-quality jobs, from pipeline maintenance and engineering to manufacturing and construction. Continued investment in gas systems helps sustain these careers and opens opportunities in low-carbon fuels like renewable natural gas and hydrogen blending. The plan also recognizes that full electrification is not cost-effective for all households, especially in colder regions like Western and Central New York. Hybrid heating systems that combine electric heat pumps with gas backup offer a reliable and affordable solution. As New York faces rising electricity demand from sectors like AI, data centers, and advanced manufacturing, natural gas provides the scalable, dispatchable energy needed to support growth and innovation. In short, natural gas is not a barrier to progress, it's a strategic asset. I urge the state to maintain an all of the above energy strategy that includes natural gas alongside renewables to ensure reliability, affordability, and job creation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Daniel Pollock.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Pollock, and I'm with UA Local 13 Plumbers, Pipe Fitters, and HVAC service techs, representing hundreds of our members across the region. Thank you to Governor Kathy Hochul and NYSERDA for considering an all-of-the-above energy strategy to strengthen New York's energy plans, protect grid reliability, and support real jobs growth in the skilled trades. Rochester knows extreme winters and volatile weather. Statewide electricity demand is expected to climb sharply over the next 2 decades. In Western New York, the Rochester area will need hundreds of megawatts of additional capacity to meet demand in the next 10 years. NYSO, the state's nonprofit grid operator, has warned that new carbon-free resources are not being added fast enough to keep pace with the load growth, and that winter heating demand will surge by 2040. In plain terms, the gap between what we need and what the grid can deliver is widening, especially in winter. Thermal energy networks, or TENS, are a practical way to close that gap. TENS use ambient and underground thermal resources to heat and cool multiple buildings through shared piping and heat pumps. Most importantly, these underground networks reduce the strain on the electric grid during peak periods, cut emissions, and can deliver predictable energy bills for families and employers. New York is already leading. The Utility Thermal Energy Network and Jobs Act enables the utilities to plan, build, and operate thermal energy networks, not just in neighborhoods and in cities, but across SUNY's 64 campuses and numerous state government offices, including the Empire Plaza in Albany. These plans will create thousands of skilled union careers through registered apprenticeships. This approach keeps energy transition reliable, affordable, and safe. Thermal energy networks bolster resiliency, keep power flowing when weather turns dangerous, and help prevent blackouts. They also anchor good-paying, family-sustaining jobs in the skilled trades, grow the tax base, and make Rochester more competitive for new investment. The men and women who build and maintain New York's energy infrastructure stand ready to partner with the state to deliver these neighborhood networks safely and on time. Investing in TENS is an investment in Rochester's future that will keep our families warm, our economy strong, and our grid reliable.
Thank you for your comment.
Dan O'Neill.
Hello, my name's Dan O'Neill. I'm with UA Local 13 Plumbers, Pipe Fitters, HVAC service techs, and welders. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you for providing this forum today. With the urgent need to address the grid reliability issues and achieve New York's ambitious climate goals, it is crucial that we adopt an all-of-the-above strategy that recognizes the value of decarbonized power sources, including existing and advanced nuclear power. New York's carbon-free future is bright, but only if we steward the existing clean energy we have and usher in a new era of reliable, resilient, clean power from nuclear energy. A report from the Brattle Group provides historic energy blueprint to help New York make powerful progress. It found that New York's nuclear plants are proving that we don't have to choose between clean energy and affordability. We can have both. Data shows that upstate nuclear power plants provide safe, reliable, dependable base load power that contributes billions in revenue to the economy, keeps electricity prices down, avoids millions of tons of emissions, and sustains thousands of direct and indirect jobs in every corner of the state. To preserve these gains, it means New York should extend the zero emissions credit program and its common sense policy that protects our wallets, our environment, and our workforce. The Empire State should not only protect existing nuclear facilities, but expedite the access to new nuclear technologies. I'd also like to state that I have 10 people working at nuclear power plants throughout the country. They are some of the safest plants that we go into. There is a plan for every move we make in these plants. They don't make a move without a proven plan in place. That's all I got.
Thank you for your comment. Sophia, hang on for 1 second. Could I have Group G, please, come down to Susanna's microphone? Thank you. Back to you.
Mishi Wenderlich.
I'm Dr. Mishi Wenderlich, the Campaign and Policy Coordinator of Metro Justice. We're a member of New York Renews also. On behalf of our hundreds of members and thousands of supporters in the greater Rochester region, we're calling Governor Hochul's NYSERDA to uphold the climate law mandates, including investing 40% in disadvantaged communities, of which Rochester, most of Rochester is, uphold the 2022 climate scoping plan and launch New York's program to make polluters pay, cap and invest, and build out the simple solutions we know work: wind, solar, storage, geothermal, TENS, Empower Plus, public transportation, and weatherproof climate-ready homes instead of dangerous, costly, and speculative energy schemes like new nuclear and the repowering of toxic aging gas power plants. People in Rochester are on the front lines of the energy and utility crisis. We have the third highest energy burden in the country. And one of the worst asthma rates as well. People are so fed up with high rates and unaccountable utilities that over 6,000 people have signed a Metro Justice petition to investigate replacing RG&E with a locally owned nonprofit public utility. Community and labor groups have been aligned as well in a few demands, and I'll leave with you an article on this, for cap and invest that would lower bills and create $10 billion a year paid by polluters, not taxpayers, to upgrade all of our homes for free and create the workforce training to be able to do so. We also know that publicly owned renewables at the state level lower bills for everyone and call on New York to use NYPA's power to build 15 gigawatts of public renewables and prohibit future allocations of NYPA power to stamp tenants and have no new frack gas pipelines. We also support the Tonawanda Seneca's demand of the energy plan, and I'll submit further in writing, but including prohibiting the allocation of subsidized renewable energy to the AI industry and for-profit data centers. We must protect our frontline communities from the ravaging effects of fossil fuel use, asthma, heat stroke, extreme weather events, catastrophic floods, exploding energy bills, and unaccountable multinational owned energies, and more. We need to uphold the climate law and its mandates, and I'll submit further comments as well that also go over past comments on the cap and invest plan and why we need this.
Thank you for your comment.
Alan Blair.
As a physician, I reviewed the health impacts of the two pathways in the state energy plan. It turns out that the more aggressive pathway improves state health by a lot. The state's analysis shows that by 2040, the net zero A pathway will prevent 1,800 more early deaths, 700 more heart attacks, 490 more hospitalizations, and 2,200 more ER visits for asthma every year than the less aggressive additional actions pathway, all from burning fewer fossil fuels. By 2040, Net Zero A also saves $23 billion more in yearly healthcare costs than additional actions. But the state seems likely to go with additional actions, even though it has less than half the health benefits. That's likely because additional actions adds less to the budget than Net Zero A. This doesn't count cap and invest, which should do a lot to even up the score. Now, what do we lose by saving all that money? For starters, we'll spend $23 billion more on healthcare per year, and a lot more folks will get sick and die. We'll also slow progress on global warming. Fossil fuel folks tell us that New York emits only 3% of the world's CO2, so why be the leader? Well, if no one leads, who will follow? Third, additional actions violate state law. It violates Climate Act provisions requiring 100% renewable electricity by 2040 and net zero carbon emissions by 2050. It also violates the state constitution, which specifically states that all New Yorkers must have access to clean air. Last, additional actions would abandon our frontline communities. They're the ones suffering most, and they'd also benefit most from net zero. But they're also the group with the least political clout. It's unfair and undemocratic. So let's choose Net Zero A. It will cost us less than we think and save us much more.
Thank you for your comment.
Heidi Butler.
Butler. Thank you. My name is Heidi Butler. I'm a retired pediatrician and a longtime resident of New York State. Since retiring, my focus has all been on acting in a way that will prevent further warming of the atmosphere and oceans. I have reviewed the draft plan documents supplied by the New York Energy Planning Board and believe that we can do better. We here in Rochester are relatively protected so far from the most dangerous effects of global warming. However, in most of the rest of our state, this has not been the case. We have seen many people die from excessive heat exposure, from drought, from floods, from extreme weather events. Many more have suffered illness due to breathing air contaminated by wildflower smoke and fossil fuels. Many people cannot afford to heat or cool their homes. Here's what I'm asking, among many other things. Refund the recently defunded Empower Plus program. Fast track solar power and battery installation permits. We need more than 15 gigawatts installed before 2030. It is not true that 40% of farmland is now covered in solar panels, which was stated by one of the previous speakers. Rather, 40% of solar panels are currently installed on what was formerly farmland in New York State. Next, augment and stabilize the grid. Make high energy concerns such as data centers and crypto mining producers provide their own clean energy or have their licenses revoked. Do not permit new methane gas pipelines to go through our state. Solar energy, being clean, quiet, and regenerative, allows land to rest while contributing to statewide reductions in emissions and improved air quality. Solar and battery installations and thermal networks have and will employ plumbers, pipe fitters, welders, electricians, and HVAC specialists. We saw this at the Mount Morris solar installation where union workers benefited.
I want to thank you for your comment and ask you to submit the rest in writing.
Thank you.
Brian Dunbar.
Brian Dunbar with Abundant Solar Power. First wanted to say thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak. I'm here to obviously represent solar energy and battery storage. However, I will recognize that it's not the only solution. It takes a combination of all these things that we're hearing about today. The current draft doesn't seem to have any ambitious initiatives for distributed energy resources, and I just wanted to highlight a few things that solar can offer. Distributed solar and storage can be deployed very quickly and effectively, approximately 18-month turnaround for that. It's going to lower energy bills for ratepayers, especially underserved communities, and we hire local for the construction of these projects. Solar will enhance grid resilience and reduce reliance on expensive peak power, And it is a highly successful clean energy source that is proven and should further be invested in for the growth of the industry.
Thank you for your comment.
Megan Farah.
Good evening, or sorry, good afternoon. Thank you for having us here today. First and foremost, I am a mother of 4. I am a former school board of education and also a member of the Board of Chamber of Commerce. First off, our school district is the biggest school district here in Greece in Monroe County. We have a 90 bus fleet that we take on a daily run that we're going to have to flip these buses to electric. At $500,000 and more a piece, this is going to put substantial amount of money for our taxpayers. That is not, we can't do that. On top of that, being on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, I hear regularly businesses that do know they can't do this anymore. We need to do something because they are looking to go elsewhere. It's not feasible looking at the state's energy plan. They're not saying that wind and solar is the only thing we can do, but we have to make sure that there is going to be a choice for our businesses. Otherwise, we are going to lose big. With all that being said, I appreciate your time here. Thank you for hearing us.
Thank you for your comment.
Lavelle Lewis.
Thank you. Thanks. No problems. Thank you. I stand here today to speak against the New York State so-called energy plan. The Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, on paper, it mandates that 70% of states' electricity come from renewable energy by 2030, and that we reach 100% zero emissions of electricity by 2040. But in reality, this plan threatens the affordability, reliability, and stability of energy for families right here in Monroe County. This rushed transition forces us away from proven reliable energy sources like natural gas, while mandating costly technologies that are not yet scalable or dependable. And who pays for this? The middle-class families and small businesses already struggling with inflation, higher housing costs, and stagnant wages. Meanwhile, corporations like Iberdrola, the foreign parent company behind NYSEG and RG&E, are set to cash in massively on this plan. In just the first quarter of 2025, Iberdrola reported over 2 billion euro in profits, about 2.3 billion US dollars. That's record-breaking money, and much of it comes not from innovation, but from passing costs down to ratepayers while benefiting from subsidies and mandates backed into the state energy law. Simply put, Albany writes the plan, Iberdrola collects the check, and working New Yorkers are stuck footing the bill. Let's not ignore the politics. Iberdrola and its affiliates poured over $411,000 into U.S. political campaigns in 2024 election cycle, with nearly 70% of those contributions going to Democrats. These campaign dollars help secure favorable policies, but they do nothing to lower rates, improve reliability, and strengthen services for families across Monroe County. Let's be clear, we want cleaner air and healthier future, but we cannot achieve that by bankrupting families.
Thank you for your comment.
Wendy Lowe.
Hi, my name is Wendy Lowe. I don't care about the camera. I want to speak to the audience.
I'm sorry, tonight is about speaking
Okay.
to the
I
Energy Board
understand.
as part of a hearing.
This is part of what I am doing is I am talking to the fact that this board is not the problem. We are the problem. Humans are notoriously bad at long-term thinking. Today, I'm going to go to meet my great godchild for the very first time. My son was born before this century began. That gives me plausible deniability. We have, although it's not helping me, he's not happy. We have heard a lot of people's wish lists. And modern Americans have been very trained to have wishes and demands and to want them immediately fulfilled. I've heard about completely reliable electric. My grandmother didn't have that. Low-cost heat. My grandmother didn't have that. A continued high-paying job in a lucrative gas industry. None of my grandparents needed that. The American freedom to choose your energy. They were stuck with what was there then, but even the American, our ability to always choose just what we want, it's not something that we can always depend on, and I don't know if it's even good for us. You know, we need enough energy for AI, and maybe AI will be smart enough to know that we're not very smart. We cling to our wish lists. Our children and grandchildren will pray for the chance to survive.
Thank you for your comment.
Marcus Williams.
Marcus C. Williams. Marcus Williams is somebody else. Hello, thank you guys for having this commission panel here in Rochester. The fact is that Rochester is a energy-heavy city. What you're planning for our city and our county is actually going to be considerably debilitating, not just to citizens, but also to businesses. We're going into an age where we're going to need an excess amount of energy. This plan is not really generating that. We've got a big focus on a lot of solar and wind moving forward. That's not going to cut it. We need to return to focus on things that have been reliable and produced abundant amounts of energy for us in the past and continue to right now, like natural gas, which we get the majority of our energy and power from in the state presently. We also need to work on pivoting more towards nuclear and more nuclear builds. That is something that's going to be not just substantial, but also empowering for our economic development as a region and as a state. We don't want to end up like California with rolling blackouts and brownouts all the time. We don't want to be able to be forced to remain reliant on the sun, which we've got like 270 cloudy days a year here. You know, like it's just not feasible. In addition to that, the continued shutdown of natural gas pipelines is bad for us as a state. You guys just voted to increase our rates for natural gas and other forms of energy. You're hurting our people and our community, and this plan is going to continue that path of debilitating policy that's coming from Albany. So I ask and I request humbly that you refocus this on more so natural gas again and reopening natural gas pipelines and refineries, as well as nuclear energy and building more nuclear plants, because there's money from the federal government for that. So thank you. That's what I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Kayla Miller.
Hi, hello. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for letting me speak. Yes, my name is Kayla Miller. I'm from Syracuse, one of your disadvantaged communities. The current stance on nuclear in this draft concerns and disturbs me. There is no guaranteed safety with nuclear. In the long term, that waste must still go someplace. And historically, that has been in the backyard of our Haudenosaunee brothers and sisters and siblings. Another of your disadvantaged communities who, again, historically, the state just has not taken care of. Flat out, nuclear is not safer than renewables. It is not cheaper. Long-term, nuclear has devastating health and environmental consequences that will last for generations. To borrow from the Haudenosaunee, please plan for the 7th generation. This new draft does not do that. I've heard many excuses today for why we cannot abandon nuclear, and they are just that. They are excuses. I know that change is scary. I know it's difficult. I know that we as humans, we don't like it, but I'm urging New York State and I'm urging the kind people here who have expressed, in my opinion, some very valid concerns, but I am urging you all to stop living in short-term fear, to think about the next generation, to plan for the 7th generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Madeline Bull.
Thank you for hosting the hearing for public comment today. I'm here to urge everyone in the decision-making process to follow the recommendations as outlined by the scoping plan as mandated by the CLCPA climate law. It's clear that the proposed energy plan is non-committal, bending to the will of cowardly politicians in the pocket of corporate interests by not adopting the actionable items outlined in the scoping plan. The climate crisis is not vague and non-committal. It is very real and requires actionable steps to protect our communities, our economy, our environment, and the health, especially of frontline communities. If we increase our dependence on fossil fuels and dangerous nuclear energy and selfish companies who exploit us for profit, we set ourselves up for unreliable energy grids that will continue to fail during the increasing strong weather events that continue to happen, and sets us up for the acceleration of building energy guzzling data centers and for AI and warfare that pollute our frontline communities, like the proposed Stamp data center on the edge of the Tonawanda Seneca Nation. Please follow the law, uphold the climate law and all of its mandates, look to the scoping plan for guidance, keep the data centers and nuclear energy out of our communities, invest in clean energy, and respect the treaties that our state is engaged in with the indigenous nations whose land we are on. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Before I turn things back to the chair, was there anyone who registered today who received a card who didn't have a chance to speak yet? No? Then I'm going to turn things back to Chair Harris.
Thank you very much. We will now close today's hearing. Certainly, we do want to thank you for all the comments that were received. I will ask Chancellor King if he has anything he'd like to add.
No, just appreciate everyone's thoughtful remarks. Thank you.
So certainly for additional opportunities to provide comment, please do consider submitting a written comment, as you can see here, how to do so online, as well as the future hearings. If we turn to the next slide, we certainly do hope and expect that we will see some of you at the remaining hearings that we will be holding across the state. Our next hearing is actually in Albany on the 10th of September at 5 o'clock. You can find more details on both these in-person hearings, the virtual hearings, and the ability to submit written comments on our State Energy Plan website. So with that, I want to thank you, and I will end this public hearing. Thank you.